I'm afraid our justice system is fraught with unending litigation, legal gymnastics, avoidable costs, red tape, etc., etc. Ladies and gentlemen, land is key. Land plays a crucial role in all investments. Our land administration system has been in a state of confusion for years. It is one of the few agencies that has still defied the digital age. I'm told that at least three different attempts by the World Bank-funded programs to modernize and digitize land records and administration have failed woefully. Clearly, something ought to be done because land titling is absolutely crucial for investment promotion. Ladies and gentlemen, macroeconomic stability is a most desirable factor for investment decision-making. Investors need to know, investors need to be able to model the present and future values of their investment with some degree of confidence and predictability. A prudent management of key macroeconomic parameters, particularly prices, that is, interest rates, inflation, exchange rates, etc., is absolutely vital. Currently, in the advanced and emerging knowledge-based economies, jobs are being created in the tech, research and development, artificial intelligence, engineering, and agricultural science sectors of economies. In this regard, we must ask ourselves whether there's a match between industry needs and demands and output of our educational system here in Ghana. Are we producing the knowledge workers, or is it a system producing, chronically unemployable graduates? Has our curriculum been adjusted to current needs? Is there an obsession for the acquisition of degrees and credentials at the expense of relevant technical skills? Is there a danger of the system producing too many know-hows and not enough do-hows? Over the last 3 years, ladies and gentlemen, the University of Science, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and please take note of the name, Science and Technology, enrollment into social sciences is higher than the combined enrollment for engineering and science students. Our polytechnics, for whatever the reason, which of course I don't understand, have been turned into universities, and they are all offering social science courses. Ladies and gentlemen, the German economy withstood all the challenges of the global downturn precisely because of the reliance on their polytechnics to produce highly skilled artisans and other technical professions. The Germans have been so successful that the current US administration, headed by a famous president, has asked for German assistance in training 5 million artisans. We need to emphasize science and technology in our education system. Let me give you an interesting statistic. In 2015, a global report titled Creating the Future, it was reported that 80% of children in India expressed an interest in pursuing careers in engineering. To enhance our competitiveness, ladies and gentlemen, we must produce more knowledge workers for agricultural sciences, engineering, manufacturing, IT, etc., etc. And still on education, let me be a little bit more provocative. I believe we should ask ourselves as a nation whether the cancellation of the GCU O-level, A-level, and the introduction of the West Africa Senior Secondary School Certificate has brought a positive change. From where I sit, I don't think so. Isn't it a shame that parents who attended our public secondary schools are not eager to send their wards to those same secondary schools? It used to be a pride and joy for your son to go to your school. Many who can afford prefer sending their children to private schools just to be able to take GCU, O-levels, and A-levels, as well as the International Baccalaureate and some similar international programs. No wonder there's been an explosion of private schools in the country. This development cannot be good for social cohesion. What happened to the saying, if it's not broken, don't fix it? In the past, ladies and gentlemen, products of our public schools could gain admission to top universities worldwide. Regrettably, if you go on the website Oxford University, it states clearly that the WASSCE does not entitle our students to make competent applications to study there. These points are critical, given the fact that the theme of this year's school is on job creation, especially for the youth. Specific to the Ghanaian context, the sector which has the highest potential for job creation in the short to medium term is agriculture. We have already mentioned the need for a restructuring of the land administration system. Our agricultural system is largely peasant. It isn't out of choice. It is precisely because of the lack of access to capital and technology. Capital is required to acquire land, plant and machinery, agrochemicals, and other essential inputs. The farmer in my village has to rely on loan sharks to enable them clear the land for planting. Hence, serious limitations on size and expansion. And yet, almost every farmer in my village owns his house. And this house, if properly titled, can be used as security to obtain loans to invest in their farms. Your Excellency, the ADB, Agri Development Bank, which was set up to assist and promote agriculture, lost its way as it lazily found it easier and convenient to deal in government securities. The rural bank idea has not lived up to its promise. These are all missed opportunities for transforming agriculture and creating decent jobs. Having said that, agriculture still remains at the subsistence level, whilst rural youth move in droves to the cities in search of employment. Additionally, a key factor I take into consideration is the state of the infrastructure, including healthcare provision, cost of energy, availability of water, and the state of our roads. These are important determinants in the cost of investments. Investors often seek guidance from the World Bank Ease of Doing Business ranking. And in the latest edition of the report, Ghana dropped 12 places from 108 to 120 out of 190. That must be a great source of concern to all of us. Within the sub-region, however, Ghana ranked top and 12 out of 47 countries in Africa, behind countries like Mauritania, Rwanda, Kenya, Botswana, and Zambia. The report assesses areas such as starting a business, dealing with contracts, getting electricity, registration of property, getting credit, trading across borders, payment of taxes, protecting minority investments, enforcement of contracts, and resolving insolvency. They are all mirrored in the issues I discussed at the beginning of this presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier, all investors, regardless of nationality, share these concerns. I'm afraid that our past efforts at investment promotion have focused almost largely on attracting the elusive foreign direct investment. As desirable as the foreign direct investment is in and of itself, foreign direct investment cannot be depended upon to transform in a meaningful and sustainable way our economy. 60 years since our independence, the Ghanaian equity ownership of this economy is insignificant. The key drivers, ladies and gentlemen, of Ghana's recent economic growth has been the services sector, mining, and the oil sectors. It will be instructive to look at the local equity in these sectors. There are 5 service providers in the telecoms industry, namely Vodafone, MTN, Espresso, Glo, Ghana, and Airtel Tigo. Apart from the minimal Ghana government equity interest in Vodafone, which, by the way, came from the diversification of interest in Ghana Telecom, there is hardly any Ghanaian equity interest in any of those companies. Nigeria, with its population of over 150, the second largest provider is Glo, it is 100% owned by a Nigerian. And with all the other telecom providers, including MTN, all of them have very significant Nigerian equity shareholding. Are we surprised that our exchange rate is under pressure? Because every Monday morning, CDs are mobbed up, mobilized, sent to the bank for exchange. If Ghanaian interests were there, such pressure would be at least reduced. The banking sector is no different. Out of 35 registered banks in Ghana, only 21% are Ghanaian owned. This percentage, I tell you, does not adequately reflect the true state of the Ghanaian ownership once we take into consideration capitalization. If you contrast that with the top 10 banks in Nigeria, all being Nigerian owned, many of whom are very prominent here in our economy and have gone international. All of them, 10 banks, are Nigerian owned. The mining sector is even more depressing. I can assure you that the Ghanaian private equity interest in all mines put together will not be more than 1%, if 1%. And because of the lack of integration with the local economy, the related service sector for mining is also significantly foreign. The situation is no different from our emerging oil and gas sector. Even with our stock exchange, surprisingly, a large percentage of the equity is foreign. And we all know that such capital can leave without notice with negative consequences for the economy. So, ladies and gentlemen, for as long as we don't actively encourage greater Ghanaian equity participation in key sectors of the economy, I'm afraid real economic growth will continue to be elusive. Don't get me wrong, I am not advocating for a truncation of FDI. Neither am I advocating a total local bias to the exclusion of foreign participation. That will be suicidal, and I don't have those tendencies. Within the framework of international treaties and frame agreements to which we are party, government must make a conscious effort to promote enhanced local participation and equity in the economy. My point is that if greater efforts go into the empowerment of Ghanaians to become significant equity players in this economy, at the minimum, that capital which will come in the form of dividend and profits will be stable and will be retained in the country. We should not be shy and apologetic in our efforts to promote and encourage Ghanaian businesses. Professor Han Song Chang, in his book, The Bad Samaritans, stated that from his rigorous research, almost all the rich countries today protected their local companies until they were of age. Ladies and gentlemen, in the 70s, we used to have thriving industries in poultry, textiles, and road construction. Now, almost all our poultry is imported. More than 60% of our tilapia comes from China, and of course, the construction industry is now predominantly foreign. We even got a foreign construction company to dig up the graves at the Asomdue Park when we lost our president. Our experience tells us, ladies and gentlemen, that foreign investors are even given preferential treatment over Ghanaian investors. And there are many examples of foreigners enjoying far better incentives than their Ghanaian counterparts in similar investments. In empowering Ghanaians, we must be guided by an observation my good friend and mentor, Ken Kwaku, made so eloquently. He was a former head of MIGA in Africa, and I quote, he says, "Don't do for the foreigner what you will not do for the local." Ladies and gentlemen, we have never been short of entrepreneurs. We've had our Siams, Boachi Mattresses, Suedo Contractors, Apia Menkens, to name a few. We have not created our Dangotes and other champions for two key reasons. Business has been demonized and politicized. Ghanaian-owned businesses have been at the mercy of political cycles. The perception is that governments undermine businesses whose owners are considered politically unfriendly. Ghanaian entrepreneurs are on tenterhooks, walk on eggshells at every election because depending on where you stand, your expectation will be either patronage or retribution. This is mainly because of the level of government influence in the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, business is often demonized, and all entrepreneurs are perceived to be crooks. In the 1970s, a survey was conducted of sixth form students at Ashmota School. They were asked what their career choices were. All of them mentioned professions like doctors, lawyers, accountants, and the like. When they were further asked why they did not mention business, they said business people were thieves whose only aim was to rob the state. The combined effect of all these factors is that the growth of Ghanaian businesses have stifled. A reversal of this unsatisfactory and unhealthy situation would require a complete mindset change at all levels of society. A new approach under which we generate local interest and ownership of private businesses must be grounded on a conscious promotion of national capitalism. Economic empowerment doesn't just happen. It is a deliberate and conscious effort, and it's a consequence of government policies and actions. Malaysia, Singapore, South Africa, South Korea, and our sister nation, Nigeria, have done better than we have because they've made it possible for their nationals to play a major role in economic activity. We can and must learn lessons from the empowerment experience of these countries. We must, of course, not repeat their mistakes. As an example, we must avoid creating seasonal local entrepreneurs through political patronage. Tribal and ethnocentric considerations, family affiliation, and friendships must not be the only route to gain business opportunities. Crony capitalism comes with too high a price. This is a key lesson we must learn from Malaysia in their 2 decades promotion of Bumi Putra, Malay sons of the soil policies. The consequences were massive corruption, cronyism, and Malays fronting for local Chinese and foreigners, the so-called Alibabas. Similarly, the unintended consequences of the black empowerment policies of South Africa must not be lost on us. Ladies and gentlemen, the government needs to institute measures to ratchet up local investor confidence. We can draw lessons from the business environment and strengthening for Tanzania program, the targeted intervention program for empowerment and economic growth in Namibia, which focuses on mining and fishing, and the black empowerment, economic empowerment in South Africa, and the broad-based black economic empowerment in that same country, which has lifted many citizens out of the economic doldrums. Contracting, government is a big player in the economy. Contracting and procurement provides government the opportunity to assist local SMEs and ventures with supply contracts. Government is a big spender, as I said, so it must create the opportunity for small local businesses to feed into most of these large infrastructure and industrialization projects. Procurement contracts must not be priced out of the reach of Ghanaians. Such contracts should be divided into smaller lots for many local businesses to partake. We do have a local content law, and I'm pleading that it ought to be fully operationalized. We need to plan today for the health of our economy tomorrow through critical human resource development in all our strategic sectors. We must make a conscious effort to tap into the Ghanaian diaspora pool of talent and capital. The experience of India in developing ICT is based on Indian diasporan capital and talent. Indian engineers from Silicon Valley were provided with tax incentives, dual citizenship, among others, to fast-track investment in India. Today, as you all know, India is a world leader in software industry. A good start has been made with the establishment of a diasporan desk at the presidency. Ladies and gentlemen, there ought to be a deliberate effort to change local minds about local products through policy. In South Korea during the 1950s, the government, through its educational system, succeeded in making people believe that consuming foreign goods, especially if they were made in the country, was unpatriotic. Merely smoking a foreign-made cigarette could yet get you reported to the authorities. What currently pertains in Ghana and indeed many African countries is not conducive to developing indigenous capital. There is little faith in things made in Ghana. We have an inordinate taste for everything foreign, whether food items, clothing, electronics, footwear, not to mention toothpick and toilet paper. This mindset issue manifests itself even at official levels. Recently, the rehabilitated Gihok shoe factory in Kumasi had cause to publicly complain about the continuous importation of boots for the security services to the neglect of their brand of boots, which I'm told had good quality. It is also necessary to reinvent, it is not necessary to reinvent the wheel in terms of policies aimed at building indigenous or national capital, especially where there are best models that address our situation. I've given the examples of South Africa, Malaysia, Singapore. I've already cited what could be adopted and adapted to suit our circumstances. We must consciously strive to create business champions, just as Nigeria has done with Dangote, UBA, Zenith Bank, First Bank, Glo, GT Bank, just to name a few. Let us begin with value addition to cocoa, our precious metals, and the massive opportunities in ICT to develop software entrepreneurs. Government must move away from the age-old provider of all things to a facilitator of all things. We must strategically transform ourselves from agriculture to agribusiness and from mining to mining beneficiation. We must move away from being mere planters of cocoa beans to manufacturers of world-class chocolate products. I know the government is very keen and is doing something in this area, and we must applaud them. We must allow our nationals to participate in these sectors as investors and shareholders. Shining examples like Casapreco must not be left on their own to their own devices. They need all the encouragement from government because that is the only way they become national and international champions. In a recently held conference in Abuja, when the name Dangote was mentioned, it was made very clear by Nigerian officials present that Dangote is a national institution. This is the spirit and attitude we should have when it comes to providing support to Ghanaian institutions. Our officials from relevant sector ministries and institutions must emulate such laudable examples of supporting their own. Ladies and gentlemen, to create jobs, we need investment. And to attract private investors, we need to ensure that the environment is and remains competitively attractive. Further, I have illustrated with examples from countries which were once our peers at independence and other African countries how national capitalism can be promoted. I therefore believe that given the opportunity with strong government support in creating the requisite environment for national capitalism, the Ghanaian entrepreneur can deliver growth with jobs that will lead to sustainable development for our motherland. It is my conviction that for some time now, this is the best opportunity to take these ideas to action. And we must avoid what the Malaysians call tona, talk only, no action. Mr. Chairman, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we are either serious about national capitalism or we are not. If we are, then we better get on right with it and get on with it. We must implement the ideas that we all know we have with the fierce urgency of time. Thank you very much indeed.